say, any of you casted the Disney Channel original movie Point Break, do y'all know what a situationship is? Yes, okay. Some of you are very sad. You weren't super proud to admit that. I understand. I also wouldn't be too proud to admit that. I saw on Twitter recently that situationship is what the sad person in the situationship calls it. The other person doesn't call it anything. And that tracks. And they just hugged now, so they're in one. So that's great. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring this up. When I was in college, I was in a situationship for 5 years. Yeah, that's a responsible grown. I was only in college for 4 years. So, yeah, I learned an entire undergraduate's degree worth of English literature, but I did not learn my lesson. That sucks. No, I was hooking up with this guy on and off when we were in college, and after I graduated, I moved out of the city where we went to undergrad. We went to school in D.C., but my best friend, she was still in D.C., and she was getting married that next year, and I was a bridesmaid in her wedding. And so, as one naturally would, I flew back to D.C. for her wedding, and I got a hotel room because I was finally an adult. And as one would, I invited my situationship person to come over to my hotel room that my mom paid for. And it was the night of the rehearsal dinner, and I'm like dressed all nice, I'm feeling myself, I've had a lot of free alcohol. I'm like, hey, come over to my hotel room. He gets there before I do, so he's sitting there waiting for me in the hotel lobby. And I saunter up to him, and he's reading a book. Sexy, right? That's something that I always liked about him, was that he was like studious and introverted and sensitive. And I thought that that was the reason, that sensitivity and introvertedness was the reason why he was never really like physically affectionate with me out in public. Not a lot of PDA in this situationship. I should have seen the signs, but I thought that it was because he was a nerd. But no, apparently not. Because we go up to my hotel room, and I start getting ready to, hook up with him. And he looks at me dead in the eyes, and he goes, "Do you mind if I finish this chapter?" And that hurt. And I know we've been talking a lot tonight about being diagnosed with autism via the internet. And I'm sure some of you have been on TikTok and seen the signs of adult autism on your own TikTok For You page. I, too, have seen that recently. And so I texted my friend whose wedding it was and said, "Hey, do you remember that time at your wedding when I invited that guy over to my hotel room to hook up after your rehearsal dinner?" And he said, "Could I finish that chapter? Do you think that he has adult autism?" And she said, "No, Courtney, I don't think he has adult autism." And Zanies, Chicago, I'm sure you're thinking, "Oh no, your friend is gonna say, 'Courtney, you have adult autism.'" But no, she said to me, "He does not like you." And honestly, that was harder for me to swallow. That's not something I relate to a lot as a comic. I'm very used to people liking me. Thank you, I appreciate it. The hell yeah. It's hard to date as a stand-up comedian, though, because it's sort of like I spend a lot of time with other comics, right? And so that's pretty much my primary dating pool. But I don't really want to date people who are essentially like my coworkers, like they're my colleagues, really. You know that old cliche, like don't shit where you eat, right? And the thing about stand-up comedians is that a lot of them, no offense, are poor. And so they live in studio apartments. And so it's sort of one big room of shitting and eating. And I'm a single girl. I'm back on Hinge for the 900th time because I haven't killed myself yet. And on my Hinge most compatible, it's usually guys named like Brad or Chad or Thad who work in a vague job like finance or consulting and who live in either this neighborhood or River North, one of the two. Probably you, sir, in fact. He's laughing because he knows. But recently on my Hinge most compatible, it gave me a stand-up comedian who I know. And I know him from having a crush on him. But the thing is, I've been to his apartment, and I hate to tell you, Hinge, we are not compatible. Because this man has never heard of a bath mat. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, he probably folded up a towel and put it next to his shower to step on instead of buying a bath mat. No, it's just wet. And the worst part is, it's a shoes-off household. Wet socks, exactly. There was really no punchline to that joke. I just needed to rant about it. No, I am single. I'm not the Chilean lesbian that Izzy was talking about, but I am 1/4 Hispanic, which counts. I checked. Thank you. That one woo was from my father. He is the Hispanic one. Yeah, the reason why I look like this is because my mother is so white.
How white is she?
The one, how white is she, was also my father. That was weird. I don't know why y'all didn't participate. It was clearly participatory. But no, my mom is so white that when she had her 3 children, myself and my 2 siblings, she gave us all the same initials so she could, quote, get a good deal on monogramming. Of course, no one thought to tell her you can save the most money on monogramming by not monogramming at all. But I grew up in Connecticut where there aren't a ton of Hispanic people, and so I didn't really hear a lot of negative stereotypes about being Mexican until girls would start to go to Mexico for spring break. And they would tell me, Courtney, if you ever go to Mexico for spring break, because why else would you go? Be careful of Montezuma's Revenge. Y'all know what Montezuma's Revenge is? Yeah. It's when they tell you not to drink the water because the bacteria could give you digestive issues. But it was always from these girls who would then proceed to post pictures of themselves on Instagram double fisting frozen margaritas. As if that ice is not also made of water. Which of course begs the question, is it the water that's the problem, or is it the fact that this is the first time you're eating seasoned food in your life, Karen? Because if we're being honest, there's really only one ice us Mexicans need to be concerned about. Thank you, yeah. Sometimes it rolls politically.